Music Scene Investigation is on the air. Glad you joined us today. My name's Rich Wildman. On today's broadcast, a lot of cool stuff. In fact, 3 of them I have in my hand right here. New music from new artists. We'll find out what our panel thinks about them a little bit later after they hear the music for the first time live on the broadcast today. It's going to be a lot of fun. Certainly hope you hang around with us for that. And want to take this opportunity to remind everybody on the MSI site, if you're a musician and want to get your music in front of our panel, you can do so very easily by clicking on the Submit a Song menu item at the top of the page. And if you like what we do, we'd appreciate you letting us know by clicking on the Donate button as well. That's up on the upper right-hand side of the site. I'm sure no one can miss it, and we really, really would appreciate that. And now I want to introduce our panelists to you on today's broadcast. First of all the way from an undisclosed location. That's his yacht. He's not actually there. He's in Brighton this time around, I think. Mr. James Anderson. James, how are you, sir? Things going well?
Oh, thank you. Yeah, I've got more space this time because I'm actually in my studio rather than in the yacht. So I'm not in an undisclosed location. I am here in Brighton, live for you tonight. Only feels like a few days since I was last on, and it was. And I've been clicking the donate button a few times too.
Well, I'm glad to hear that. Thank you very much. You're just clicking it, though. You're not doing anything else.
I clicked it a few times, and then I followed through and made a nice little donation from my offshore bank account. We should be running for a bit longer.
Is that the one from the Prince of Dubai?
I'm not allowed to talk about the Prince of Dubai.
All right,
not anymore anyway.
Just wanted to check.
On a positive note, I've switched back to my other headphones and I can hear everyone clearly. I was having a lot of difficulty with the last set I was using on the show, so it's probably a bit unfair on those people on the hit list last time, so apologies for that.
Well, that's quite all right. I'm sure they'll understand. And in the chat room, I'm being told I have to call you Mr. James Anderson. Is there something going on I need to know about?
No, not Mr. James Anderson Esquire.
All right.
No, it's Mr. Anderson, like the Matrix.
Yeah. I know him well enough to call him by his nickname.
I see the reference.
Sir.
What was that?
Sir.
Sir, yes. Why has my camera gone all green and horrible? What's going on with that?
Dulcet tones you hear right there complaining about everything are Ian husbands. Ian, I think it goes all green because of the green background you have. Or it could just be the Skype connection we have between each other. Mr. Ian Husbands and our guest panelist, Mr. Ian Freedman. How are you, gentlemen?
Yeah, we're good.
I'm all right, except for, look, we're all green and pale.
Just live with it. Go with it.
But I've got my image to think about.
It's radio.
You don't want to think too much about that image, mate.
It's radio. You really, it's fine.
But we're recording the video for YouTube. You can't say that. People are going to see me looking all pale and green. I'm English.
Let me do this. It's a public service for everybody who happens to be watching us on YouTube. Don't look at the screen because Ian is apparently very self-conscious. There, does it make you happy?
It wasn't quite what I was thinking, but that'll do.
All right.
We can live with that.
All right, very good. Very good. Glad to hear it. Now, I want to tell everybody a little bit about our guest panelist. Our guest panelist, Mr. Ian Freedman, is he's a multi-instrumentalist, and he hosts the Readifolk Radio Show, and it's something I think everybody should take a listen to. It's a weekly folk and acoustic show that's broadcast in Reading, UK, and in Canada. Reading. Okay, it's spelled Reading. Come on, help me out here.
We're British. We do that sort of thing.
Okay, well, I do my best, guys. Unfortunately, my best isn't good enough. There's a song in there someplace, too. Now, you're heard in not only the UK, but Canada and Australia as well. Now, Ian, the last time you were with us, I think, was back in November of last year. How long have you been doing the show?
Must be coming up for maybe 4.5 years, something like that. We started out as a community radio show, and the community radio unfortunately went bust. I didn't want it to stop, so I approached a couple of other radio stations in Reading in the UK. And then we got picked up by Blues and Roots Radio out of Mississauga in Canada, and that gets broadcast all over the world. And it's very gratifying that we've managed to keep going.
And I know that after the last time we had you on the broadcast, and since we've spoke, you were brave enough, and I do use that term correctly, to have Ian co-host one of the broadcasts with you. How did that go?
It was a bold step for sure, but it turned out okay. It turns out that he does have a conscience. He can speak for more than a minute without using expletives, and some of the music that he played was acceptable.
I mean, some of the music was acceptable.
And he's got very broad taste, as our Ian. So yeah, not only did I have him on that time, I'd have him on another time. I had Ian down as a hard rock sort of chap because that's all I've ever seen of him. But he proved me wrong.
Well, that's very interesting. I'm surprised.
So was I.
Many strings to my bow and many arrows in my quiver.
All right, don't build your partner. You've had your compliment. There
you go. There you go. Thank you. Put him in his place. That's what I say. Now, I mentioned that you're also a multi-instrumentalist, and you also play in a folk group called Rye Wolf.
I do play in a folk group called Rye Wolf.
Tell me a little bit about this.
Rye Wolf is, we were originally called Roggen Wolf, which is the Norse spirit of the wolf that runs through the rye or the corn. And when you see the rye field moving in the middle of summer when there's not a breath of wind, that's the Roggen Wolf, the Rye Wolf. Trouble was we kept getting booked as a heavy metal band, and so we changed it to the English translation, which is Rye Wolf. And we play a mix of British, meaning British Isles, so English, Scottish, Irish, Welsh folk music, and some self-penned stuff in there as well. And we're getting some good gigs. We're main stage at our local folk festival in Wallingford in a couple of weeks' time. We've played a few theatres, so we're starting to get some attention, which is very nice.
That's really good to hear. Now, you said that before you used the English translation of the group's name, that you were being booked as a metal band. How'd that work out? I mean, seriously, how odd is that did you actually take any of the bookings or anything like that?
No.
How'd that work?
No, because we wouldn't do that to people. I would hate to turn up to a gig expecting to see a folk band and it was a heavy metal band, and I wouldn't do that to other people. So
I was imagining a scene at the Blues Brothers.
No, we wouldn't do that to people. So we never actually got that far. But the inquiries, that's what people were expecting. So
I think that would have been great to, as Ian said, to pull a Blues Brothers on them. Except, as a folk band, you could dress the heavy metal part and just go in there and play folk.
As a folk band, you can put anything you want on to wear on stage, and people think it's authentic. I don't know what it is, but you can turn up wearing motorcycle leathers and a trilby hat, and people think that that's really folk. I have no idea why.
I thought it was all brown shirts with braces and baggy buttons.
No, that was the Nazis.
Oh,
you're thinking of.
Sorry, I always get them confused.
Yeah. No, there's no traditional folk dress. But so we're doing all right. We've just released a CD.
Tell us about the CD. I can see it right there.
There you are.
Yeah, let me.
You do that.
You've got to get it right so it's not reflecting.
This is a project of 3 CDs we're doing. The first is all traditional material. And nothing else. So traditional British folk music, not that there's anything wrong with American folk music, but this is British folk music. Then we're going to do another one for all self-penned, and then when we worked out enough money to pay the royalties, we're going to do a CD of covers of other people's stuff. I'll give a CD away tonight to whoever donates something first, or anybody that can tell me one track that's on the CD. Just guess, and what are the tracks? First person to get one right of traditional, we'll post your copy. How's that?
Well, we'll watch the chat room and see if anybody makes any guesses here. James, do you want to make any guesses now that he's opened the floor to it?
Well, I've already made one in the chat room, which won't be very original for anyone that's already looked in there, but for the benefit of those listening on YouTube or those that aren't signed in. New wave of British folk metal, given the heavy metal connection there.
New wave of British folk metal, that could work.
Is that a title of a song? Or?
No, that could be a genre, like new wave of British heavy metal. But,
No, incorrect.
Our survey said.
James is very disappointed. You can see it in his face.
There you are, James.
Come on, guys. Think of the traditional folk tracks that you might know. Get one in the chat room.
This Land Is Your Land has been guessed.
Which is a very, very good song, but American, not British.
Oh, there you go. It is British folk. Straw Hats and Suspenders was another guess.
Ah,
I think they're talking about something different.
It could be. And Box of Crap, of course, Box of Crap is the folk expert around here. His guess is The Grope.
No, that's not on there either.
No.
Very traditional British song, but it's not there, huh?
No.
Land of Hope and Glory.
No. Good guess, but no.
Well, we'll keep an eye on them throughout the show and see if anybody can guess one of the songs. All right, so tell me about the radio show. When is it on? When can people find out about it? And also, where can people go to find out more about the new album from Rye Wolf?
At the moment, they can't do anything because we've just picked them up from the printers yesterday, so it's not anywhere. If you go to ryewolf.co.uk, there's a very rudimentary website that we're still working on there. Bandzoogle is something I've just discovered. If you want to put a website up, go to Bandzoogle, and we're constructing a Bandzoogle website as we speak. And what was the other question?
The radio show. When is it on? When is it on? And
It's on at 5 p.m. EST on a Tuesday, which is 10 p.m. British summertime. It's on a Wednesday at 7 p.m., which is about 1 o'clock in the afternoon on a Wednesday. Yeah. It's on at 6 o'clock in the morning UK time, so that it goes out in Australia at 3 o'clock. And then it's on a couple of times more. It goes on a Friday. It's like a grave shift slot that they use to fill it on a Friday night, which is fair enough. They host us, so if they want to use us that way, they can. Then it's also on Mixcloud. Just search the Readifolk Radio Show or Readifolk, READI Folk, and you'll find it there on Mixcloud.
All right, very good. Now, another guest from Tom Chianti out in the chat room is Celtic Cowbells and Cows.
Keep guessing.
You were thinking about doing that one, weren't you?
Oh, yeah,
you couldn't then actually found
Celtic
out
Cowboys, Cowgirls.
Cowbells.
Cowbells.
Yeah.
And cows, yippee-yi-yay.
That's not British.
Started off as British, it all did.
It sounded British to me. I'm just saying. All
Grassland?
Grass. No. Okay. Well, nobody's guessed it in the chat room. They're going to have to keep at it, though.
I need more whiskey in this glass.
Do you reckon?
I do.
Have you got any more in the jar?
I might have some more whiskey from the glass. Okay. Yeah.
Now, last time we were able to tell the difference between you guys by what you were drinking. One was whiskey, one was water. Is it any different this time around?
No, it's the same.
We are resuming our previous roles.
All right. Ian will be whiskey, and then Ian will be water. And you can tell them apart by how they slur their speech for those of us in radio.
The distinct lack of alcohol in one.
Mine is all natural.
All right. Well, gentlemen, let's get to today's business. As I said earlier, I have 3 new bands to take a listen to on today's broadcast. I know you're itching to get to it. So why don't we do just that with us?
Whoa, stop.
See, now I was hoping you'd stop me. And you did, so good on you.
I can't see it. I haven't got my glasses on.
Patty Timmons says the Drunken Sailor. Is the Drunken Sailor?
The Drunken Sailor is indeed one of the ones that is on the CD. And if you somehow let us know your address without putting it in the chat room, we'll send you a copy.
Send me an email, Patty, or drop me a DM on Twitter, and I'll make sure that happens for you. And also, we said about when someone donates as well. Does that still stand?
Yeah, I suppose.
Yeah, cool.
First person to donate. Okay, all right.
Yeah. So if someone donates live during the show tonight, you'll also get a copy of the Readifolk CD as well.
All right, very cool. Very generous of you.
I'll rip it. I'll do digital ones. You know what I mean? Digital downloads. It's easy for the world, isn't it? You know what I mean?
Do you know that we're on the radio at the moment? We shouldn't be having a private
Yeah,
chat.
you shouldn't be talking about it. Now, Ian, I do want to. I want to ask Ian a question before we actually get to today's music. I have just a couple of minutes. Yeah, whiskey. That's right. The witness statements for last week, how did everything turn out on those very quickly?
Well, I'm going to say everyone agreed with us.
You can say that, but did they?
They did, yes, they did. All one of them.
So you voted and nobody else did?
No, it wasn't me. Someone else did vote, but only one person voted last week, and they agreed with us. So that's a good thing.
All right, so they agreed that Jet Fighter Kaleidoscope and their track Curses as the song of the week. That was a correct choice.
Indeed.
All right, well, I'm glad to hear that as well. So let's go ahead and see if we can get a new song of the week selected out of the 3 we're going to hear today. First up, song number 1 on today's Music Scene Investigation. Here it is, everybody. Song number 1. Enjoy it. Let me start it here.
Love is what we give away, not what we need to borrow. When you can't do anymore, when all your riches make you poor, give away what you're fighting for. Misery only brings on more. When the card you play is your last, when the world spits you out too fast, want the things that others have, when you let go it's just the past. Stand up and try again. There's no looking back, no rewind, pushing on tomorrow. Love is what we give away, not what we need to borrow. When your conscience sees where you've been, when you go on and reach out a limb, how easy was it to win, when you knew just where to begin. Stand up and try again. There's no looking back, no rewind, pushing on tomorrow. Wasted time and broken words can only lead to sorrow. Up ahead, the curves and turns we all now tend to follow. Love is what we give away, not what we need to borrow. What you give away comes back to you. What you give away comes back to you. Stand up and try again. There's no looking back, what we give away, not what we need to borrow.
There you have song number 1 on the broadcast today. And let's open things up to our panel, find out what they thought about it. Going to start out with James. James, what do you think about track number 1?
Yeah, certainly quite original sounding. We'll start with the odd criticism, which isn't a very nice thing to say, but might as well start with that. Unfortunately, I wasn't that impressed with the MIDI sounding sort of computerized drums or fake instruments in there. In some places it worked, other places it didn't, and it's blatantly obvious when you've got sort of quantized beats going on, and it just makes it sound unprofessional. That aside, nice vocals. I don't think that double tracking worked throughout. I think it was something that worked well when the harmonies were in place. But other than that, it's when it's a decent vocal, it's one of those tricks to use to sort of beef up a weak sounding vocal in my book. And I think it would have been suitable to have had the vocal on its own without any extra backup going on there, because she's got a really nice sort of bluesy voice that you don't really hear so much of in contemporary production. What else have I put down here? Yeah, there's some nice touches in there as well, like the electric piano sound and some of the instrumentation that wasn't quite expected. Wasn't a fan of the a cappella intro and the sudden cut out to just vocals at the end, but that's just merely a production preference rather than anything else. I actually really enjoyed the track. It's just a shame about the MIDI sounding instruments, because I think that really pulled it down for me.
All right, James, I appreciate your thoughts on that. Now up to Whiskey and Water, Ian Husbands and Ian Freedman. Gentlemen, what do you think of track number 1?
All right. Yeah, I mean, what James says rings true a lot with me. She's got a good vocal, and I've opened the Xbox again. It keeps doing this to me tonight. She's got a great vocal. She's got a hook developing there with that chorus. There's a song here. But from the point of view of sounds, they are all out of the box, MIDI sounds. It sounds like it's been done in GarageBand or something like that. Some of the performances, some of the actual instrumental parts are very, very good. But the sounds being used are just so MIDI. There's no naturalness to them at all. And as James says, they've all been quantized, so everything's sitting tight. And it's kind of making that vocal sit out on its own, because you've got this vocal against these digital sounds, and it's isolating that vocal as a totally different part to my mind. And the whole song's not melding together. So the mix needs a lot of work. You know, if all you've got is MIDI sounds available to you, sometimes it's best not to try and get a classically sort of folk sort of acoustic sound, for example, like she was trying to get there. You know, go for an electronic sound. Go for something that we're going to realise is an electronic sound, and then try and make it blend with that vocal a lot more, because it did sound like this was a vocal recorded over an instrumental, and they weren't quite gelling together. Again, heavy use of vocal layering. I like vocal layering. I like lots of harmonies, but it kind of lost the dynamic that could have been there with that vocal dynamic, with dropping the vocals in and out. And again, with those MIDI instruments, because they didn't seem to change, the dynamic of the track wasn't there. You could hear there was a chorus part there, but it didn't actually have any dynamic change in there, really. So it kind of just felt like the track was on the same level all the time. And, yeah, she needs to go back, look at this, either reproduce it into a way that's going to sound a bit more natural, by using better MIDI sounds or something like that, or take it the other direction. Go so it sounds like it's false sound, but make that mix stand out together and sit, you know, that vocal sit on that music rather than everything just sort of being isolated sounds. Sir?
I'm going to leap to the defence of this track. I actually rather liked it. I love the openness. I love the fact that she didn't fill every corner of the spectrum with sound. I loved the use of panning. She put everything in the right place. I actually quite like the use of the MIDI guitar, which was quite obviously done on a keyboard. But why can't that stand out as a sound in its own right? I actually liked the way she used that. I'm going to say anything about it. There are two things. I agree with what you said about dynamically. It didn't go anywhere. It was on one level the whole time. The other thing that I would say about it is lyrically, coming from a folk background, I listened to the words and I wasn't quite sure what you were trying to say. There could be a strong song there. Why don't you try that on an acoustic guitar and some kind of drone in the background? That would sound absolutely stunning. Overall, I liked it.
All right, very good. Thank you very much. I appreciate your thoughts on that. Track number 1, for everybody's information, is called What You Gave Away, and it's by a group called Cross Quarter Day. Cross Quarter Day. We appreciate their sending that track into Music Scene Investigation. As I mentioned at the top of the show, if you are an indie musician out there wanting to get your music in front of our panel, go to MusicSceneInvestigation.com and click on Submit a Song. It's at the top of the page, and we look forward to hearing from you. All right, as Ian smiles there in the background, we've got 2 more songs to take a listen. You got something you want to say, Ian?
No, I was just laughing at the way you went, and click on...
It's called
Submit a Song!
Dramatic Pause.
Or forgetting what you were going to say.
I was actually looking at something else. I don't know. Anyway...
Stay focused, Richie.
Yeah, I know. It's tough to do. It's hot out here today. It's hot here every day. All right, song number 2 coming up, everybody. Take a listen to this, and we'll find out what the panel thinks right after this. Song number 2 on today's Music Scene Investigation.
Cyrus, shoot him in the bang, bang.
That is track number 2 on the broadcast today. We're going to go over to Whiskey and Water first, find out what they thought. Ian and Ian, gentlemen, what do you think about track number 2?
We got a little video feed here in the studio, and I kept expecting to see Eddie Murphy run out and chase the bad guys. Very, very 80s track, a wall of sound that I didn't really think worked. I think the vocals, Guy, you've got a good voice, but not a good voice for this kind of thing. The production, the voice was too low in the mix. Somebody has commented on the chat show that it's muddy, and I agree, on the chat room, I beg your pardon, that the vocals are muddy, and I couldn't agree more with that. Yes, that wall of sound, I thought, just made it a mess. Go back, look at your production values, and maybe think that this sort of thing has been done before. Maybe before some of you listening to this were born. No, from me.
All right, Ian, Whiskey.
Right. I liked a lot of this, but as Ian said, this was a wall of sound. And that bass synth, which was leading, I loved the part that was being played, but it was just too loud. And that vocal was being buried. You know, to me, this was kind of like there's a lot of production ideas going on in here, but not quite enough, if that makes much sense. And in some cases, a wrong choice. It was kind of fighting between sort of being a modern dance song, a modern rock song, and an 80s classic song at the same time, 80s sort of classic rock song at the same time. The solo was really, really good, but I didn't feel that it fit the song genre perfectly. It was a bit too sort of classic 80s rock for, I wanted to hear sort of more noise and weird stuff going on. And a lot of the production, there was lots of elements of almost dubstep going on in there. And I'd like to have heard them take that a little bit further. You know, put some more glitching on that vocal and stutters in the track instead of just that clean stop, bring it in as a stutter. But mix-wise, it was just a big wall of sound. Too many synths, too many guitars. Vocals were buried. I like the guy's voice. There's a strong hook to this. And I think they basically need to go back in the studio with this and strip that mix back, play around with the production, a bit more ear candy in there in places, you know, make more of the parts that you've got in there. I mean, there's some great performances in here. I think there's a really strong song in here. You just can't hear it clearly through that wall of sound. Which is a problem. It's a problem we get a lot on MSI over this over compression and wall of sound mastering.
All right, makes sense. I appreciate that. Now off to James and what he thinks. James, what do you think about track number 2?
Well, I don't mind the idea of crossing genres, but in many instances, this was getting really confused, and I found it quite difficult to listen to because I didn't really know what I was listening to. As Ian said, one minute it was trying to be rock, then it was dance, and then it was heaven knows what else, and it just became too hard to listen to. And I think that was mainly because of that over-compression and the sort of loudness war between the different instruments that was going on, and the lack of prominence in the vocals. The vocals were just completely swamped by everything else, and there are lots of great elements in there. I really like that bass synth, the sort of wasp type sound and other things like that, but the levels are all wrong, and something that you need to get right, really, if you're going to have something where there's different complexities going on. There wasn't much space in the mix for certain things, and it's a shame because I really enjoyed elements of that track, especially when the guitar solo came in. That was quite a refreshing moment, but whether it fitted or not is another matter. Difficult to tell on a first listen. Maybe on a second it would come across a bit different. But overall, quite enjoyed it. It's just it didn't really seem to be gelling consistently for me.
All right, I appreciate that. Thank you, James. Song number 2 is called Late Night Show. A lot of people were speculating in the chat room what was said there. Was it Where's My Gun? No, it was Late Night Show, believe it or not. That is song number 2, and that is by Project Midnight on the show here. All right, we have one more track to take a listen to today, and all the tracks today, well, I shouldn't say all the tracks. The track that's selected as a Song of the Week will go on in our hit list next month, and the hit list is a very cool thing. You want to make sure you get on the hit list if you're coming to MSI. The hit list is the goal because then you're automatically entered as a nominee into our Artist of the Year. And that's what everybody wants, right? A prize, a trophy, that kind of thing. All right, one more song for you guys, and we're going to take a listen to it right now. This is track number 3 on today's show. Track number 3, here it is, everyone, on today's MSI. All right, that is track number 3 on the broadcast today. We're going to go back over to the panel, find out what they thought. We'll start things out this time around with James and get his thoughts. James, what do you think about track number 3?
Yeah, very interesting. It certainly didn't go the way I expected it to, especially with that highly ambient start. It's really quite surprised me, actually, and still has. Also, with the way that things ended with those, what sounded like subliminal vocoder messages going on there. I was really trying hard to try and work out what was going on, whether that was just weird synth sound effects or a vocoder with someone speaking in another language. But no, it's an interesting track. Certainly got me laid back and felt quite chilled out during that. Found it a little bit hard to work out what the vocals were in places, and generally the instrumentation seemed to... There was something up with the recording I couldn't quite put my finger on, actually. I was trying to work out what it was, and there was some kind of low rumble that was distracting me through that. And it's something that if it were tidied up, maybe would have made the listening experience a little easier. I don't know what that was in there, but it was something I couldn't really identify. So maybe it's worth going back over with a fine-tooth comb and working out what it is, because I certainly couldn't figure it out. Maybe the Ians will know. So I'll pass it over to them.
All right, well, let's take and get what the other Ians have to say about it. Whiskey and Water, what do you gentlemen think about track number 3?
I think James summed it up with his first word. Interesting. Wasn't that interesting? I will start with the criticism, which I thought the vocal needs some work on, and I think it might be down to the fact that it was overlayered. I think I might have preferred to hear just your vocal on its own without the various layers. I loved the production on that. I also loved that Tinkerbell synth, and I'm always impressed when people have the courage to use discord in a song. That discordant use of, I'm going to call it the Tinkerbell synth sound in there. Just
sound.
Is that what you'd call it? Music box sound.
Yeah.
And it was deliberately not quite in harmony, what we would call a proper harmony, and I thought that was very brave, and I also thought it worked beautifully. I like that a lot. Keep going. Just look at the vocal. For me, it was the vocal, not the voice or the singing of it, but the way the vocal has been recorded on that track, I think needs some work.
All right, and Ian, whiskey?
Yes, please.
No, never. What do you think of track number 3?
Okay. Right. Yeah. I like the ambience of the track. I liked that music box sound. It really, really worked. It was a nice little sort of musical hook in there, which was good for me. It needed something like that. Again, the vocal was my main issue. Again, performance was pretty good. Vocal tone and pitch was pretty good. I would have liked to felt a bit more feeling in there from the singer, a bit more emotion. And reverb. This was layered with reverbs all over the place. I kind of felt when I started with that intro that I wanted to hear a sort of male vocalist, a bit more like Snow Patrol and bands like that. Do you know Snow Patrol? English band?
I know them, of course.
Yeah. Something a bit more like that is what I was expecting to hear. And when that female vocal came in, it just, I don't know, didn't seem quite right. It seemed to be sort of floating over a track which was a bit dirtier than the vocal was sort of coming across as. It was kind of like this nice ambient floaty vocal over actually quite a dirty track. If you listen to some of those guitar parts and the guitar sounds, they had sort of like a really dark country feel to them in places. And it just felt like that the vocal and that backing track weren't quite matching up properly. And with all that reverb and everything going on, not just on the vocals but on the track, across the track in general, it made it hard to distinguish what she was singing and pushed her vocal back into that mix a little bit, when again she should be a bit more upfront. Again, Ian's probably got a good point. Lay off some of that layering. Again, we seem to have a week where we tell people a lot on MSI that they need to do layered vocals and bits and pieces like that. We seem to have 2 examples here where that's been done to the nth degree, and I would start to cut back. It's fine to record this stuff. It's good to record this stuff. You know, the more you record, the better, because then you can start taking away. If you haven't recorded it, then you need to add it back in afterwards. So record this stuff, but then, you know, be prepared to ditch some, put some on the cutting room floor, because sometimes, you know, just that vocal on its own can be just as powerful as all that layered vocal.
So in other words, sometimes less is more,
as they say.
All right, well, there you have that. A good solid bit of advice from our panelist. Song number 3 is called Envy, and it's from a group called Sminky, and we appreciate their sending that track into Music Scene Investigation as well. All right, gentlemen, now is the time of truth when you must decide on a song of the week. So I'm going to turn it over to you and let you make that decision.
What do you think?
I think it's one of those questions for me where you have to be objective and go for the song you think is best rather than the song I personally like the best. And for me, the song I personally liked the best was track number 1, because that's my kind of thing. Mm-hmm. Do you know what? I'm going to say that number 3 for me was the better song. It was better recorded. It was more daring. It was more original. And for me, I'm going to choose number 3.
Okay. Well, I'm kind of inclined towards number 2. to be honest. Just I think the production on that was top notch. Yeah, we've got mix issues and we've got over compression issues, but I think out of all of them, that's probably the easiest cured. So that's kind of where I'm sitting with this.
Production. Yeah, I hear what you're saying about production, but for me, at the end of the day, it comes down to the musicality of it, and I think 1 and 3 both beat track number 2 on the musicality.
I'm going to go for number 2. I am. Sorry, dude.
All right, James, that leaves it up to you. It's up to you to break the tie or make the tie.
Well, I always think that a song should go into the hit list that should stand a good chance of actually doing well, and I think that either
wait, is that a Godzilla siren I hear in the background?
More than likely.
Okay.
These things can happen in Brighton, and I'm just accustomed to them, so I don't always notice. So I've got a cow somewhere in the corner, really. Maybe I should be doing that. But yeah, going back to the track that should be going through. I think that I agree with Ian. Well, I always agree with Ian's about the fact that tracks 1 and 3 are probably the best musically. Track 2 has got some very good production in it. It has the inconsistencies with the vocals, and I think that with it being so over-compressed, it's difficult. But it's one of those things that could be improved very easily. This week's really tricky, actually, because there's so many sort of pros and cons in each track, and there's no real clear winner for me. But track 3 had a few drawbacks, in my opinion, especially when it came to production and too much reverb going on. I think I'm going to have to go with track number 2. I would go with number 1 if it wasn't for the MIDI.
All right, so a split decision, and there you have it, everybody. Track number 2 from Project Midnight, called Late Night Show, is going to be our song of the week. Now, of course, we want to know whether you agree or disagree with our panel. Go to musicsceneinvestigation.com/witness and let us know what you think as well. Whiskey and Water, Ian, Water, thank you so much for being here. It's great to have you back on the show with us.
Thank you for having me.
And the best of luck, and I certainly hope the new album does tremendously well.
So do I.
You do that very well, Ian Whiskey.
I've had practice.
You should, do a game show where you do that kind of thing.
I've often thought about putting a little pair of hot pants on and a crop top.
I've often thought about you doing that as well.
What can I say? And
go.
going around like the old sort of wrestler girls. You know what I mean?
I've no idea what you're talking
about.
The numbers?
No.
No. Anyway, for those of us here in the States, Ian Husbands is indeed Vanna White. There you go. All right, James, Ian, thank you very much for being here. Thanks to everybody in the audience as well. A reminder, if you like what we do and want to support us, hit that donate button on the page. We really would appreciate that. Join us again next week. We'll be back with 3 new songs in front of our panel as we play out today with song number 2. Again, from Project Midnight, it's a Late Night Show, our song of the week. Thanks for being here, everybody. We'll see you next time right here on Music Scene Investigation. Thank you.
Bye.
get my head straight now. I'm sensational, I make them scream and shout. Slash good fire into my heart, my teeth is inside.